Welcome to live daily Tottenham Hotspur news with me, Barnaby Slater, a little earlier than usual due to a doctor's appointment. I know you want to hear all about that, but as if this week couldn't have started well enough after 3 points and a treble of victories against Manchester United this season, reports now emerge that Harry Kane may actually be keen to return to Spurs, possibly even as soon as next summer. Would you take him back? Or, like a scorned lover, would you rather see him cozying up to some other Premier League fan base? Meanwhile, more transfer rumours as to who Tottenham may turn to strengthen the squad in the summer, and some left field support for Daniel Levy from a manager he interviewed many moons ago but didn't give the job to. All this and more on today's episode of Daily Tottenham Hotspur News Live. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Apologies that I'm a little earlier, 12 o'clock today rather than 12:30. I'm sure it's confusing everybody. Let's see how it goes. And if I don't hear from many of you in the chat, then I will never do it again. Please do press that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Please do press subscribe. And also, come and give me a follow or a subscribe over on the audio podcast platforms, be that Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. All the support really helps me. Just go over, type in the Spurred on podcast to the search engine and give me a follow, a subscribe, and a rating. That would be amazing. But let's get going with that Harry Kane news. And ever since the kind of leak came out a couple of weeks ago that he has a £54 million release clause eligible to start and be taken advantage of next January, more leaks just keep coming out. And reports from Germany suggest that he has not ruled out a return to Spurs amid growing uncertainty over his future. The England captain was linked with a surprise move back to the Premier League earlier this month, as I mentioned, and would reportedly entertain a return to North London almost 2 years after leaving. Now, I don't know what you think. Let me know in the comments, guys. But I've always thought that Harry Kane basically chose Bayern Munich because he thought, where can I go and definitely win trophies as quickly as possible? And then that all went to shit, didn't it, last year when Bayer Leverkusen went invincible and won the Bundesliga. And then Bayern Munich couldn't make it to the Champions League final. Now, I've also said before, I think Harry Kane is desperate to win one of the big ones. I don't think the Bundesliga title, especially at Bayern Munich, counts as one of the big ones because they're basically expected to do it. But could Vincent Kompany take them to the Champions League final this year? I don't know. They're a little bit open as far as I'm concerned, but I think they will win the Bundesliga. I think Harry Kane will get his first trophy, and maybe then he is desperate to return to the Premier League to really try and make an assault on Alan Shearer's Premier League goal-scoring record. And that is where it opens you up to thoughts of, well, which kind of clubs are going to be interested in Harry Kane? 32 years old, nearly 33 probably at that point. Yes, still an absolutely elite striker, a striker who came into the game relatively late, so isn't one of those players like Wayne Rooney who started at 16 and therefore his whole career and his legs were gone by the time he was 30. Kane will be more like Lewandowski, who I think will play into his mid to late 30s, possibly his very late 30s. He was never blessed with massive pace anyway. He drops into the number 10 role to link up play. So what kind of teams really are going to be looking for a player like that? And when you really whittle it down, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there are that many who are going to go for it. Obviously, Man City have just signed up Haaland for a 10-year contract. I don't think he'd go to Chelsea or Arsenal because he knows how much that would piss off Spurs fans. Liverpool under Arne Slot, I don't think they're likely under FSG to kind of break the bank on wages and £54 million for a 32-year-old. I don't think that's likely to be Slot's kind of modus operandi. And also, I just think there's a reason Harry Kane's mural is still on the wall outside Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And it would be a kind of Francesco Totti-esque story if Kane was able to return to Spurs, having won the Bundesliga title in Germany, and hopefully for him, the Champions League too, come back and then win something at Tottenham. I don't know. Am I just being a romantic? Am I being too much of a purist? Or am I being unrealistic? Apparently, Reports in Germany 2 weeks ago claimed that Bayern are already considering replacing Kane with a younger striker after this season. The Bundesliga giants have already held discussions over potential alternatives, with Victor Gyökeres and Benjamin Sesko among possible targets. They are, of course, also targets for the likes of Arsenal. The report suggests that it remains unclear whether Spurs would be open to Kane's return, having spent heavily on club record signing Dominic Solanke last summer. Now, when it comes to stuff like that, I think that is small-minded thinking. Having Harry Kane at Tottenham Hotspur again would only improve Dominic Solanke. It would improve Matthias Tell. In fact, the only player who might actually be really pissed off about it might be Matthias Tell, because he left Bayern Munich, albeit in the short term on loan, because he wasn't getting any opportunities in the 9 because of Harry Kane. So listen, as far as I'm concerned, we need to start thinking like a big club, and bringing in a player of Kane's ability, then that would only improve Dominic Solanke as far as I'm concerned. Ed M says in the comments, Kane is on £500,000 a week. I wouldn't be getting our hopes up. He's not on £500,000 a week. There's no way that Bayern Munich are paying him £500,000 a week. That's not happening. He might be on £300,000 a week. That's realistic, but also, maybe that's a reason why Daniel Levy has completely cut the wage bill, because they have some kind of unwritten understanding that maybe Kane will come back. And I genuinely think, in a similar way to, if you remember that interview that Daniel Levy did, well, it wasn't an interview, but that little piece on the Amazon documentary when Christian Eriksen was leaving, Daniel Levy said, we will match whatever any club come in with. And I think Levy would be willing to pay the 300 to pay Harry Kane, especially as now I don't think we have any players in the club who are on favoured nations deals. Favoured nations deals, in case any of you don't know, are the deals where some players have it written into their contracts that if there's a player that comes in or is at the club who's on more money than them, then their contract must be matched to that. At the moment, I do not see that any Tottenham players will have that in their contract. We have too many young players in the squad. The only players I think recently who would have had that are Hugo Lloris and Harry Kane, realistically. Over 100 of you watching concurrently, guys. Thank you so much for the support. 17 likes. Let's try and get those likes up towards 50. The more likes that we get, the more Spurs fans this video will go to. Ben Jacobs, the journalist, said this: I think if Kane returns to the Premier League, there's a willingness to go back to Spurs. That has not been ruled out by the player. We have to wait and see if there's an appetite for Tottenham to do that deal, especially now they have Dominic Solanke. Spurs, as we know, have a first option agreement on Kane, giving them priority to re-sign him ahead of other clubs if Bayern decide to sell. Actually, I think that's slightly misworded. I think the deal is that if a Premier League club come in for Harry Kane and have a bid accepted, then Tottenham have the right to match that bid and talk to him. There is reportedly no fixed fee in Spurs' agreement, meaning they would have to trigger his £54 million release clause or negotiate a price with the German club. David Blair in the comments says, be mad not to take Kane back, but no way he can keep up with Ange Ball. Disagree. I was at the game. Respectfully disagree, David Blair, and not in a Jude Bellingham way. I was at the game against Shakhtar Donetsk when Harry played in the 9 in his last game for Spurs in the friendly, and he scored 4 goals. And I actually don't think the number 9 at Spurs has to do that much, other than what I will agree with is that they are asked to press a lot more, and he probably wouldn't do that. That is a fair thought. Eugene Marlingham says, would be amazing if Kane came back. Ange could definitely use him. Agree. Zanudin, thank you for your comments, says, if Kane came back to Spurs, he would break the 280 goal record. I hope so. David Calvino, thank you for your comments. Good afternoon, everyone. My first time watching your live stream. Keep up the good work. Appreciate that, mate. Make sure you press subscribe if you haven't already and spread the word. Clobocrop, thank you for your comments. Says Kane would play more off the bench as well. Now, love that comment. Thank you so much. That is what I'm talking about. Big club mentality. Bring in a player who can spread the minutes for Dominic Solanke, spread the minutes for Matthias Tell, spread the minutes for Son Heung-Min. This is the way Tottenham need to be going forward. One of the very few problems that came about during the Pochettino era, where we were at our best, is that mad kind of conversation that used to go around with the commentators and the pundits and on social media, where everyone was like, well, Tottenham can't improve their first team at the moment. So, you know, the fact that we didn't spend any money for 3 transfer windows, you can kind of understand it. That is such bollocks. Tottenham need to start, you know, we're all wondering why Spurs don't win things. We need to start matching those clubs who don't think like that. We need to have 25 players, all of the ability to spread the minutes out so that we don't get as many injuries as we got this season. so that everybody's fresh for every game. And I'll come back to this. One of the things that we used to talk about with Pochettino is how he was the fullback whisperer. We had four brilliant fullbacks under Pochettino. Rose and Walker were our mainstays, the most athletic, the kind of first teamers. And then he brought in Kieran Trippier and Ben Davis. And they were excellent. And they went on to become excellent players once, once Walker had left in Trippier's case. And Ben Davis is still there, still at the club. So we need to do that all around the team and all around the squad. Nick in Hong Kong, thank you for your comments. Says prodigal son returns when he breaks the Premier League scoring record. I'm sure he would like to do it in a Spurs shirt. That is the kind of romantic story that I am willing to get behind. Bring Harry Kane back, get the picture of him with the shirt in front of the mural, and benefit as a club from what he's learned from winning the Bundesliga in Germany, and then just finish off his career with the absolute ideal move. There's no way I can see him moving to Manchester United now. Why would he go to Man United ahead of Spurs? They're absolutely in the mud. They're in the mud even worse than Tottenham are. United would be able to pay him more wages, but actually that's what Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos aren't desperate to do at the moment. They don't want to pay more wages like they've done before. They don't want to spend big money on aging players like they have done with the likes of Casemiro. So as far as I'm concerned, there aren't that many teams that I think Kane will be able to go to. Let me know in the comments who you think he'd go to if it wasn't Spurs. Nearly 150 you guys watching now. Thanks so much for the support. Press that like button. Let's get to 50 likes. Ian Weston says this: would love to see Harry back at Spurs. I think it would be give us a tremendous boost and get us moving forward to the Harry's dream. Prospector in the comments, a slightly different subject. What's cracking, Barnaby? Watched the match down cut earlier. It appears that Danso and Tell really want to be here. Yeah, I've been impressed with Matthias Tell's kind of social media content, where he seems really happy at the club. He seems into it. And I think Kevin Danso is a good signing, don't you guys? I think he looks like he's got pace. He's got good confidence on the ball, looking to play balls in between the lines. Looks like an Ange centre-back, far more than Radu Dragusin. I said that in yesterday's video, didn't I? Conrad Hart in the comments. Thank you, mate. Says, hi, Barney. What are your thoughts on the QSI news of potential club purchase with Levy staying on as chairman? Conrad, go and check out a video I did late last week. I talked all about that at length. I have many thoughts about it. In short, I'm not desperate to have an oil state owning our club and using it for sports washing. That's not my desperation. However, I've got to be realistic about it. If it came in and they were going to spend £500 million on players and we have the revenue to be able to do that under the rules, I'm not going to turn my nose up at it. But I do like the way that we're run sustainably. And I do feel like if we were able to say, win the Europa League, doing it the right way, and in Jamie Redknapp's words, actually, this weekend on Super Sunday, if we were able to shove it all down the pundit's throat by winning something in the correct way, with Levy at the helm and with us having done it sustainably through the growth of infrastructure, that would be an amazing feeling. But also, playing devil's advocate, there is an element of if you can't beat them, you kind of have to join them. So if it happened, we'll see. But I don't know. I don't see it happening. There have been talks like this for a long time, rumours like this for a long time. I guess Newcastle, as an example, their fans will have felt similarly to a lot of how a lot of these Spurs fans feel at the moment, where they heard rumours for so long that they were going to get bought, and then it never seemed to happen, and maybe they just thought that Mike Ashley was just doing it for PR and stuff like that, and then one day it did happen. So who knows? But I can't see it happening anytime soon. FFFSS, thank you for your comments. Says, why would he come back? The one thing that might bring him back is if Levy sells. Otherwise, we have no chance of winning anything. FFF, you are a slightly more glass half empty man than me. But listen, evidence suggests you're probably in the right, and my overly positive nature, especially after we've just got a good win, is probably a little naive at times. Ed M says 400,000 a week basic wage and has sponsorship deals tied in with Bayern that bring him up to more. Okay, talking about how he gets 500,000 a week. I don't think so. I don't think he's on as much as that, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Just Matt says in the comments, if Kane came back, then maybe that Kane-Sonny partnership would re-flourish and Sonny could return to his prime again. Yeah, I think that might be a little bit hopeful. I think with Sonny, listen, I think he just needs some rest. The man has just been playing football endlessly for years and years and years, doesn't get a rest, and he just looks tired, and his brain looks tired more than anything else. he's taking more touches on the ball to try and get it under control, and he's thinking too much. And the boy just needs a rest. So I'm hoping that when Solanke comes back and maybe Richarlison can come back, then Tell can get some minutes out on the left as well, as can Richarlison, and we can just give Sonny a bit of a break. That's what I would like. Brian Maguire in the comments says, why would Harry Kane want to come back to a club that doesn't challenge for trophies when Bayern do? Yeah, listen, who knows? It's reports, it's rumours. I would love to see him back. That's all I'm going to say. Donald, thank you for your comments. Says, I like Danso. Looks smooth and comfortable. He wants to be here. And I saw a half-hour interview which shows what a good person he is. Smart and sensible. Yeah, and the fact that he grew up in Milton Keynes means he doesn't have to adapt too much to make it work at Tottenham in the short term. And that's what we needed, a player at centre-back who'd come in and hit the ground running, and he seems to have done that. And fingers crossed that little knock he took, meaning he had to come off with 10, 15 minutes to go against Man United. Fingers crossed that is not too serious. Okay, more reports. Tottenham, one of several clubs eyeing Marcus Thuram from Inter Milan this summer. Spurs have evidently been long-term admirers of him, with the forward first linked to coming to Tottenham 2 years ago prior to his switch from Borussia Mönchengladbach to Inter. He's 27 years old now, and he's gone from strength to strength since his switch to Serie A, and is having an exceptional campaign, having managed 13 goals and 7 assists in just 24 league games. This sounds like a Fabio Paratici rumour to me, doesn't it? It's emerged in recent days that Spurs, apparently, according to reports, plotting a sensational move for the versatile Thuram as Ange looks to add to his attacking stocks in the summer. When Spurs' interest became clear, it was pointed out that the Frenchman would not come cheap, as he has a release clause of £71 million. It seems unlikely Spurs would spend that. It's also revealed he's on the wish list of other Premier League sides, including Arsenal and Manchester United. Apparently, Spurs looked for an update on his availability when, during the window, we asked about the availability too of the Inter Milan manager, Simone Inzaghi. I have talked a lot about the reality that I think Johan Lang and Scott Munn will have been doing, their due diligence on potential next managers when Ange was in such a hole. And you could see that Paratici would probably most likely be looking at someone like Inzaghi, wouldn't you? Marcus Thuram, what do you think of him? I don't know. He seems 27 seems a little older than we are tending to go for in terms of our young transfer strategy, but he is having a great season. And Paratici loves a deal from Italy. And as we know, even though he's not allowed to be in any way involved in our sporting strategy, he is consulting, I believe, unofficially for the club. So who knows? TikTok live stream record in the comments has said many, many times, very keen to get this message across. It's true Qatar investment, Tottenham. I don't think I will count anything as true until I see it literally on reputable websites. Nick in Hong Kong, thanks for your comment, mate, says, just want to see Odebear skinning fullbacks and getting byline crosses and causing havoc. Yeah, I enjoyed Wilson Odebear's cameo at the weekend against Manchester United. It was great to see an acceleration winger who can beat a player with a drop of the shoulder as quickly as he was, kind of Aaron Lennon-esque. Let's wrap him in cotton wool. Let's just keep him coming with longer and longer cameos for now and make sure that he's fit for those Europa League games. Dom Coy is in the comments says, we could see Poch and Kane back at Spurs together, and his days are numbered, and Poch has a history of bringing on young players. Yeah, I don't feel as strongly that Ange's days are numbered. He is, going in very hard on the fact that he hasn't been able to do much with all of the injuries and having to have a bench full of kids. And I think what happened to Amorim and Man United, not only since he joined, but also at the weekend, has only kind of strengthened Ange's positions to show that if you have to have a bench full of kids every time you play, you're not going to win many games. Eugene says in the comments, Tottenham is where Kane's heart is. And Brian Maguire says in the comments, what happened to the ex-Newcastle director? She was going to invest in Spurs, then all went quiet. Yeah, you're talking about Amanda Staveley. She was seen at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a few times, certainly when the NFL was on then. She is known to be looking to invest in another club, and she has a lot of contacts in the Middle East. Obviously, she put together the deal for Saudi Arabia and Newcastle, so she's probably in there somewhere in the background. Maybe that Qatari rumor has got something to do with her. The difference, of course, between her getting the Saudis to invest in Newcastle and trying to get a Qatari investment group to take on Spurs is that Spurs is asking price is about £3.5 billion, whereas Newcastle's was, I don't know, 500 million or something. So it's just a completely different world. But who knows? The only thing, and I said this before, is I read a long read about Amanda Staveley, an interview with her, and she does have a long-term medical condition. So she's very much in the phase of life where she's like, I want to do things that I'm passionate about, and that's why she wants to get back involved in football, and that's why there's talk of her being interested in Spurs alongside people from the Middle East. But also, as great as apparently she was at Newcastle, I'm not sure personally how perfect I'd feel about someone coming in to take control of the club and be in charge of the day-to-day running of the club, who also had an incurable medical condition. I'm not going to talk at length about what medical condition that is, but it is incurable, and it is something that will affect her life for the rest of her life. So let's see what happens. I don't know. What I will say is that all the people who dealt with her when she was at Newcastle said she was absolutely amazing. The players, the staff, everybody. So that would make a change from a lot of the reports you hear about Daniel Levy, who say that he's a bit of a micromanager and a bit of a control freak. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see what happens, whether Marcus Thuram is a rumour that comes to any fruition. I saw a graphic yesterday that said how Tottenham have the third highest net spend in the whole Premier League since the summer of 2019. So since we moved into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So it's worth taking that into account when everybody is protesting about Daniel Levy and saying that he doesn't spend. He has spent. Of course, it's true that it's only about the sixth, sometimes fifth, sometimes sixth highest wage bill, and that needs to be taken into account. But in terms of spending on transfers, third highest net spend. So important to take that into consideration. Meanwhile, Sonny has defended James Madison against those Roy Keane comments that, of course, James Madison bit back to after his goal at the weekend. And since then, the likes of Mark Goldbridge and other people have been saying, wait, why is Madison biting back at Roy Keane? He only scored a tap-in from 3 yards. But you've got to be there. You've got to be there to score those goals, and he was on the front foot. But Sonny sprang to Madison's defense, saying the following: everyone has an opinion, but I don't care what they say. For me, James Madison is one of the best teammates I've played with in my career. In big games, he steps up and scores goals, and that's why we've missed him. Everyone has an opinion, but me and Madders had a chat about this because he's always had a good personality and been able to move on. He's shown people that it's wrong. Sonny lauding Madison's resilience and performance in their recent clash, adding he showed great character and put on a brilliant performance against United. Rather than listening to the outside noise, we just focus on ourselves, and that is his answer. So really strong words from Sonny, captain's words, I say, protecting his teammate. And for me, listen, I just like to see what happens on the pitch. And for me, James Madison, he does something in this Spurs team, especially in those big games, that we don't have from another midfielder, which is his just permanent want to come and get the ball off the back four, get the ball off the goalkeeper, make things happen, get his head up, play passes in between the lines that other players aren't willing to play. And then also, what we've seen more this season, and his 9 Premier League goals show this, a willingness to make late runs into the box from midfield, the type of late runs into the box we haven't had from central midfield since Dele Alli was there, realistically. So, listen, I think maybe we need to cut James Madison a bit more slack, but the key thing is he needs to get fit, and I mean properly fit, where he can play 90 minutes regularly. He's clearly not that, because Big Ange always takes him off before full time. And he's getting injuries as well as that. So we need Madders to get a bit more fit. He's another player that I'd be willing to say, wrap him in cotton wool. Don't play him too much for the Europa League. We need him in those Europa League games. It's going to be difficult to go deep into that competition, but it is doable. It is doable. Next game likely to be against Real Sociedad or AZ Alkmaar. Both difficult potential ties, but both winnable ties. Cantab in the comments says, Amanda Staveley was my boss in one of her tech companies. What was she like, Cantab? Was she good to work for? Nick in Hong Kong says, would Ange be brave enough to let Kinski play the Europa games? I don't think there's any reason to do that now. I think Kinski's probably played more minutes this season already than he might have expected to, certainly at his age. And Vicario's had a good rest. So I don't think there's any need for that. And also, I think the rules are, I could be wrong here, but Kinski wasn't added to the Europa League squad. However, if we got an injury to our first choice goalkeeper, Guillermo Vicario, then we would then be able to register another goalkeeper as part of that squad as kind of an emergency rule. And then that would be Kinski, I think. Brian Maguire, talking about Amanda Staveley, says Steve Bruce speaks highly of her. Founders Circle says we were too reactive about Kinski, in my opinion. It was easily done given his debut, but we should reserve judgment until players can show consistency. Well, listen, I used to be a goalkeeper, so I watch goalkeepers with a keen eye, and I think he's a very, very talented boy. I've said it many times. I'll say it again. He's clearly not yet at the level of Vicario when it comes to shot stopping, but he is better than Vicario, if you ask me, in terms of his assertiveness off his line, both in terms of starting position, sweeping up through balls that come over the defense, and in attacking set pieces. So for me, I think it's a perfect situation. Two strong goalkeepers for the next good few years who can teach each other things that both are kind of better at than the other. So very exciting time as far as I'm concerned. Donald Yanella, thank you for your comment. Says Tell will get better as he learns more about other players. It seemed Tell was waiting for Deki to make a run, but Deki was chugging along behind him. Deki is great in many ways, but he will not sprint. Yeah, listen, Matthias Tell, young man, hasn't played a lot of games in the last few years and doesn't know his teammates. So it's going to take time to form relationships and partnerships and for him to get rhythm in his legs. But he's shown enough to me that he's a real talent already. Chris Peters, talking about Madison, says, I think Roy Keane's words will give him a kick up the backside. Cantab says about Amanda Staveley, after I asked him to tell us what she was like to work for, said she was a very impressive woman. Okay, so probably someone that would be a benefit for Tottenham at the club. I said a lot in my video yesterday. What we need is to get people at the top level of this club in the boardroom who have shown success at other clubs. Do what Manchester City did and literally take from Barcelona, who were the best in class for many years, took all of their kind of sporting directors, and it was that enabled them to eventually then get Pep Guardiola, the best-in-class manager in European football, and really build a dynasty. And Tottenham need to be looking to do that down the line. Clobo Crop in the comments says, who starts at the moment for you, Doggy or Spence? Well, my ideal, I mentioned it a few times before, my ideal is that we can give Pedro Porro a bit of a rest, move Spence across to right back and bring in Udogie at left back, but let's treat Udogie with kid gloves. He's had a few very big injuries in the last year, so let's bring him in slowly, like we are with Odebear, and wrap him up in that cotton wool and make sure that he's fit for the Europa League. Cantab says Spence for me. T-Rex Legs, thanks for your comments. Says seeing Big Vic make those saves versus Man United was so assuring. And Donald Yanella agrees with me. Spence on the right. Speaking of Jed Spence, his stats for that game against Manchester United were as follows. The most final third entries with 9. The most duels won with 6. Most shots blocked with 2. Most successful take-ons equally with 2. Most fouls won equally with 2. 4 possession wins, 2 tackles, and not dribbled past a single time in the game. And that's why he got the player of the match. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Thomas Tuchel should be looking at this boy. He can play right or left. He's strong, he's powerful, he's confident. He seems, and from what I'm hearing from across some of the journalists who have spoken to people about Jed Spence, he seems quite introverted, and maybe that, I think Charlie Eccleshare was saying this, or it might have been Jack Pitbrook saying this on View from the Lane this week. Excellent podcast. Make sure you listen to it. That he's quite introverted, and that may have been misunderstood previously as not caring, but he does care, and he's an excellent player for Spurs, and long may it continue. Okay, some quotes yesterday from Dejan Kulusevski, quickly becoming one of our biggest leaders in this squad. He said, the only thing I care about in life is never give up. Anything else can happen, but the only thing I never want to see in football is playing with your head down. So to win the Europa League and go on a winning streak in the Premier League, that is my goal. Yes, talk it up, Dejan. I love that. He went on to talk about just how much the chance to rest last week helped him. He said it was very important, especially for the long term also, because in the end, you want to be Superman, but you cannot deny things. I really needed that week to get away for 2 days with the family, because we don't spend a lot of time with our families when we play every day and sleep at hotels. So you also want to have a life. In the long run, I think it'll make a difference. Also, physically, we had some injury problems and we tried to fix them. But it's hard when you play every day, so it was very good for everyone. This is what sometimes as fans we forget. These guys are human beings. They are humans, and as much as it must be amazing to stay at that incredible luxury hotel that Daniel Levy built at the training ground, I bet sometimes they just want to stay in their own bed. They just want to see their partners. They want to see their kids and have normal conversations and normal meals. And yeah, just the opportunity to do that last week and this week, because for the first time in so many months we haven't had games in the weeks. I think pretty much showed against Man United. They showed a little bit more spark in the team, and I'm hoping that we can go to Ipswich with even more added spark this weekend as well. We need to win that Ipswich game. We need to prove that we're through this Dr. Tottenham bollocks where we have, one or two good results and then mess up against teams we shouldn't be messing up against. Kulusevski was asked about Vicario's return. He said this: I'm a huge fan of Vicario, like a huge, huge fan. His energy is unmatched. He's fantastic. I told him, when you come back, the whole stadium needs to feel it. That's what he does. He's an unbelievable goalkeeper. He made a couple of saves, and so with him back, it's a big, big player. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And maybe I've understated how important Vicario is previously, and I shouldn't have done. Top player, top signing for only what, £17 million for Spurs for an elite keeper? That's pretty good, isn't it? And he made some vital saves at the weekend, didn't he? Over 250 of you watching this concurrently at the moment, guys. Thank you so much for your support. 75 likes. Let's get that up to 100. If you haven't pressed that like button yet, please do. And if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please do press that subscribe button. I bring you regular live daily Tottenham news every lunchtime, usually at 12:30. Today it was at 12 o'clock because I've got a doctor's appointment, but keep an eye out, 12:30. Press that notification button as well, the bell button, and then you'll see when I'm going live with my daily Tottenham news. And then also, during the transfer windows, I bring you transfer talk, transfer rumours, transfer news as well. Let's get back into the comments. Chris Peters, who's a member. Thank you so much for being a member, Chris. Really appreciate it. Only £1 a month to be a member. Really helps me make this daily content for you. Details of how are in the description box below. Chris says, I just want someone who cares about the football. That's all. Talking about Amanda Staveley. Yeah, I can understand that. And everyone who worked with her at Newcastle certainly said she did that. Founders Circle, I think replying to me saying, I think Porro needs a rest, said this. Completely agree. Porro deserves a rest at this point. Would do well for his performance. Billy Four Eyes asking, should Archie Gray move to midfield? I've talked about this before. I haven't seen any evidence of Gray playing in the 6 role yet at Tottenham Hotspur. He's had a few little minutes here or there. Doesn't look to me like he's quite confident enough yet in that position to take the ball on the half turn when he's got men pressing him from behind. So for now, I really like the look of Gray at centre back and right back and left back when he's got the whole game in front of him and he's able to play those balls in between the lines, which he is so good at. So let's see what happens. John Mansfield on a similar subject says, could Archie do the Madders role you've just been talking about? Don't know. I think he played as an 8 fairly regularly for Leeds before he was moved to fullback. So he can do that kind of box-to-box midfield, but he's not, I don't think, as creative as Madders. Not that I've seen so far, but he's so young, Archie Gray, 18 years old. And I don't know if you saw on social media, he was back at Leeds last night to watch them get a couple of late goals to beat Sunderland. He looked pretty pumped about that. He's from a deep footballing family, clearly cares about his hometown club still, and I don't have a problem with that. And he's played so many minutes this season. So good for him for getting away, getting a bit of rest in his legs. And yeah, I'm sure he'll be involved at the weekend. Nick in Hong Kong says, where does Gray prefer to play, defensive mid or other? I think as a 6, probably. But at this point, he's come out in interviews, hasn't he, Archie Gray, and said, I'm just happy to be playing anyway. Nice pun from Big Mike, another member, says, Spensational about Jed Spence. He's really been our best player these last couple of months. Thanks for that, Big Mike. Appreciate it. Nick in Hong Kong, thanks again for another message, says, consistency is what we need now, imperative. Yeah, I think talking about what I was saying about Dr. Tottenham and Ipswich, that's right. Consistency. If we can beat Ipswich at the weekend, and listen, no away game in the Premier League is easy. That is for sure. But 3 wins on the spin in the Premier League, it would bring us closer up to that 11th position. I think we're 4 points behind whoever's in 11th at the moment. Is it Brentford? I'm not sure. Get us closer to that, somewhere up towards the top half. And then the next game after that, and I think it's midweek, Manchester City at home. And we all know who Manchester City's bogey club is. Even when Spurs are in the most dire of form, we find a way to roll over Manchester City. And Manchester City just turning around their form. Let's put that to the sword and make it 4 in a row in the midweek. That's what I'm looking for. Beat Ipswich and then go into that City game with a bit of confidence and roll them over. That would be amazing. Donald Yanella, just a little comment about Dragishin here, presumably because I mentioned how impressed I've been with Kevin Danso. Donald says this: Dragishin is less comfortable on the ball, and he started out playing on the left for us due to injuries. With his skill set, that was tough for him. Needs time to build confidence and improve his touch. Completely agree. I completely agree. Lots of people going in on Radi Dragishin saying he's not right. I don't think it's as simple as that. He's young. He's 22. He's come from Italy. When you're a defender in Serie A in Italy, you have so much more time on the ball than you do in the Premier League. And Dragishin's just learning, and all the minutes he's had will improve him, will benefit him. And as he gets older, more confident, further up the hierarchy of the club, feels like he deserves his place in the club. And probably, with his minutes being picked and chosen a little bit more based on who else is there, injury-wise, etc., I think he will improve with the ball at his feet. And he's already an excellent box defender, by which I mean getting his body in the way of shots, winning set pieces in the air, etc., etc. Zach Taylor, is there any way to get to Europe if we don't win the Europa League? Yes, we could get into, I guess, the top 7 somehow and get into the Conference League. There is a world where that could happen, but I think we'd probably have to win as many as 10 or 11 of our last 13 games. So let's see what happens. Sydney giving me a bit of abuse. You and your clickbait titles. I'll say this again, guys. I've worked in YouTube and run YouTube channels for a lot of big companies down the years. I'm afraid to say it's not ideal, but YouTube is just a search engine. It's like Google. So I'm afraid if you want people to see your videos, you do have to put titles where it's people searching for those words. That's how SEO works. It's ugly. I'm sorry, but that's just how it goes. I appreciate your comment and your engagement. Chris Peters says Ipswich City and Bournemouth equals 9 points. I love that positivity, Chris. Let's all stick with that. Big Mike says 3 wins would be massive right now. And Cantab says City, easy 3 points with a smiling, laughing emoji. Prospector in the comments says that new Egyptian guy for City is spooky, but we will get the win. Well, listen, Mido. Do you remember Mido, the Egyptian striker who came on loan to Spurs probably 15 years ago now? He gets angry on his social media because he says that he recommended Mo Salah to Daniel Levy when Salah was still at Basel. And then about a year ago, he recommended Mamouche as well to Tottenham, and we didn't take advantage of that, and he's livid about it, Mido. Mido, I remember I was there. I used to be a steward at White Hart Lane. I was there when Mido made his debut, and he scored 2 goals. He was such a brute. He had so much strength. A weird footballer as well. He actually came from money. He came from a millionaire family, Mido. So he didn't need to play. And as a result, whenever the going got tough, and he played for a lot of clubs, including Ajax, Roma, Spurs, whenever the going got tough, he kind of downed tools. And then since he's played, I don't know if you've seen him now, but Google him. He certainly likes a burger since he stopped playing, let's put it that way. But he's not the only one. When footballers finish playing, quite a lot of them pile the pounds on because they're not training every single day. Okay, some news on the Fikayo Tomori situation. Obviously, Spurs tried to put a bid in for him in the last days of the transfer window. He's talked about it. He said this: I never planned to leave AC Milan. That is very clear and simple. I'm just happy to be at this club. And as long as they want me, I want to stay. So, I'm not devastated that we didn't get an ex-Chelsea player in, and I like the look of Kevin Danso. So all's well that ends well on that front. Some reports came out yesterday that Dean Howson, the centre-back at Bournemouth, who has been on Tottenham's list for a long time, since before he moved to Bournemouth, in fact, well, his contract at the South Coast club includes a £50 million release clause. That is 100% confirmed, according to Fabrizio Romano, and it will be valid from summer 2025. He's 19 years old, and he's attracting top clubs' interest from all around Europe. I fear now that the Howson train for Spurs has probably already left the station because we've got Kevin Danso, because we've got Radu Dragishin, because we've got Ben Davis, Christian Romero, and Mickey van der Ven. Okay, thanks to Alistair Gold yesterday. Make sure you follow Alistair Gold on Twitter. He is the Don of Tottenham journalism. And also make sure you listen to his podcast, Gold and Guest Talk Tottenham. He did a Spurs loan update yesterday, so I'll quickly go through that for those of you who might like to hear what our players are doing out on loan. Bit of a breakthrough for Heung-Min. He had a Friday night to remember as he recorded his first goal involvement in English football on his full debut for QPR as they won 4-0 at home against Derby in the Championship. The 18-year-old beat his man with a lovely touch before drilling the ball across for Ilias Chair to score the 3rd goal in the 57th minute. The QPR manager, Marty Cifuentes, was delighted with his impact. He said he did well. He gave us a lot of positive things. He showed great quality for the 3rd goal with the assist, and he had good situations in 1-against-1s. We need to go step by step with him because we know he comes from a different league. and these are his first few months in the UK, but he's been training at a good level, and I'm very happy with him. Yang had been catching the eye throughout his hour on the pitch and was handed an 8 out of 10 rating from West London Sport with this review. Inevitably, he had some tough moments on his full debut, especially early on when he was roughed up a couple of times, but the on-loan Tottenham teenager was hugely impressive and always looked a threat going forward. The highlight of his performance was an assist for the third goal, which he set up for Chair after going past Matt Clark on the right. So that's exciting news for Heung-Min. He's a small boy, so it will do him massive benefit playing in the rough and tumble of the Championship. And let's not forget how long Matoma was at Brighton before he really got up to full Premier League level. So I think we need to be patient with Heung-Min, but listen, if he can do well at QPR, and a lot of QPR fans are saying they really like the look of him, then he will have a chance long-term at Tottenham Hotspur, that's for sure. Over to Belgium and Alfie Devine and Luka Vuskovic at Westerlo. That's where they're on loan. Alfie Devine has to watch from the sidelines for a frustrating spell. He's been catching the eye this season while out on loan, making 21 appearances for the Belgian top-flight side and scoring 4 goals from midfield, earning plenty of plaudits. However, during last Sunday's 4-2 win against Standard Liège, he pulled up after just 24 minutes with a hamstring problem. What a Spurs player Alfie Devine is. Scans confirmed it's a hamstring injury. He'll be out for 6 weeks. Meanwhile, Luka Vuskovic was left as the sole Spurs representative, and the centre-back will join Spurs in 4 months' time. Westerlo drew 1-1 at Cercle Bruges, and he's played 24 matches for the Belgian side, netting 6 times from centre-back and providing 1 assist. Lots of people very excited about Luka Vuskovic. Nick in Hong Kong says Yang's military service will fill him out. Yeah, that's true. In case you don't know or don't remember, every South Korean man does have to perform military service at some point, unless, of course, South Korea win an Asian Cup or something like that. Even Sonny had to do it in the end. Do you remember Tottenham had to do a deal where they managed to get Sonny's national service being shorter than most people's? Imagine that. Imagine being a soldier in your army, and basically the most famous person in your country comes and does national service with you, like the equivalent of David Beckham coming to do national service. Will Lancashire is on loan at West Bromwich Albion. He was handed his full debut in the Championship in a draw against Millwall on Saturday. According to the Express and Star, it was a full debut, not as memorable as the Tottenham team would have hoped. Good start to lay on an Armstrong chance, but little more to shout about for the striker, but he worked hard. He always works hard, Will Lancashire. It'll take a bit of time for him to get up to speed in the Championship, I'm sure. Like I said about Yang, rough and tumble, especially when you're playing in the number 9 in the Championship. Brian Hill over at Girona, although this is a loan with an obligation to buy, so I don't foresee us seeing Brian Hill at Spurs again. Girona have lost 6 of the last 10 matches, and Hill got 78 minutes on the left wing. He's had plenty of game time back home in Spain, has racked up over 2,000 minutes, scoring 4 goals and registering 3 assists. Not bad for a team not doing that well in the Primera Liga. Manor Solomon is ripping it up in the Championship, flying high. 6 goal involvements in his last 6 matches, 3 goals and 3 assists. He's managed 6 goals and 7 assists across his 26 matches for Leeds. So that's good. Alejo Valise continues to get little minutes over in Spain for Espanyol. He played 11 minutes at the end of their 1-1 draw at home to Atletico Bilbao in La Liga. 22 appearances this season, 4 goals, so that's better than I thought, but that was in one game, most of them, with a Copa del Rey hat-trick. Ashley Phillips at Stoke. He's been a near ever-present at the back for Stoke as he played 90 minutes again in their much-needed 3-1 win against Swansea. That followed up a 90-minute showing in the 2-0 defeat at Bristol City in midweek. It was 2 wins in 3 games for the gradually improving Stoke side, but Phillips did make a mistake in the win, during which he recovered from that and showed his character to put in a good performance. His rating in Stoke on Trent Live was 6 out of 10. With this review, he'll be haunted by the Swansea opener that he poked into Johansson's set-up Timon, ready to stand up and defend through the closing stages, though. Over to Leyton Orient and the very press-worthy Jamie Donnelly and Josh Keeley. Donnelly got a rest on Saturday with 22 minutes as a sub in Leyton Orient's 3-2 home win, having played 76 minutes in midweek. That came in the wake of his amazing goal from the halfway line against Man City in the FA Cup. But no rest for keeper Josh Keeley, who played in all 3 matches over the 7-day period, claiming another clean sheet, making it 13 clean sheets out of 20 League One matches. Josh Keeley sounds like a talent. Of course, he also scored a goal for Leyton Orient this season. So well done, Josh. Alfie Dorrington, who's up on loan at Aberdeen. Apparently, there'd been some frustration for him as his full Aberdeen debut this month has been followed up by only 22 minutes from the bench in the Scottish FA Cup win against Dunfermline. So he's been an unused substitute a few times, but it's still senior experience for the 19-year-old centre-back. And finally, guys, thank you so much for all of your support watching this video. Please do press that like button if you haven't already. Press subscribe, guys. But finally, Martin O'Neill, the ex-Leicester and Aston Villa and Celtic manager, said this week that he would have no problem working with Daniel Levy. He spoke highly of Levy, in fact, describing him as approachable and fair. He emphasized the understanding that dynamics of accountability and support is crucial in football management. And based on their previous interaction, he saw no reason why working with Levy would present any issues. He said this: "I would have absolutely no problem working with Daniel Levy, none at all. I met him some years ago and he's very affable, really good, and no problem whatsoever. I'm not just saying that, I would have no problem. Of course, it's important to know who you're working with, but you know your job and you know what to do. You know if you get support from someone or not. I would have absolutely no problem." From my conversation with him, that was a few hours long some years ago. It was a very decent meeting, but I've had no problem at all working with somebody because the buck stops with you. So a bit of left field support for Daniel Levy there from Martin O'Neill, who back in his day, he's 72 now, and he didn't do brilliantly at the Republic of Ireland, where he had Roy Keane with him, didn't he, as his assistant? And also, I think he was back at Nottingham Forest at one point, didn't do great there. But back in the day, in the 90s, in the early noughties, Martin O'Neill was an excellent manager. Okay, just going into the comments before I leave you guys. Chris Peter says Dragishin for Romania always looks good. Yeah, we talked a bit about Dragishin in today's episode. In case you missed that, go back and watch it. Cantab says top 8 might also work, but do we really want the Conference League? I would say usually I've said no to the Conference League, but I'd say yes. Let's get in the Conference League and do a similar thing to what Chelsea have done this season and basically play a bit of a B team. Chris Peters says Mido for manager. Big Mike says Big Mido. Ed M says he's fantastic, that Dean Houston. Yeah, he really is. Neil Turner, thanks for your comment, mate, says I think we should prepare for Romero leaving this summer for Madrid. If we can get 75 million for him, that opens up Hoyston's 50 million release clause at Bournemouth. I think we'd be looking at more than 75 million pounds for Christian Romero personally. He's won the Copa America, he's won the World Cup, he's one of the leading defenders in the world. And it's Daniel Levy. You don't get anyone for cheap. Maxwell, thank you for your comments. Says it doesn't sit right that we're setting up for an Angeball system and then bringing back Kane, who can't do it. I think we should only bring him back as a 10 or a super sub. Well, I did talked a lot about Harry Kane at the top of this episode, so go and check it out in case you didn't see it. I think we should be thinking now more in terms of squad in general. And Harry Kane coming back, if it was possible, and it's a big if, would allow less minutes for Dominic Solanke, less minutes for Matthias Tell, less minutes for Sonny. Spread out those minutes, get everyone playing when they're 100%. And as a result, we will be a more dangerous team and squad in the league. That is how I feel. And Neil Turner says, great Mido story. He got stopped by Teesside police for having no insurance on his Rolls Royce. Then told them he didn't need it as he had more money than the insurance company. Perfect. That fits with exactly what I was saying about how Mido, one of the only footballers that I remember who came from money. His family were millionaires from Egypt, and he didn't need to play. But he was a handful when he started at Spurs. Anyway, guys, that has been today's live Tottenham Hotspur news with me, Barnaby Slater. Once again, thank you so much for your support. Over 300 of you watching concurrently for the last 25 minutes or so. Really appreciate it. Give this video a like on YouTube. Make sure you press subscribe if you want daily live Tottenham Hotspur news. And as I said, also during the transfer windows, Premier League transfer news from further afield. And please do become a member. It really helps support me make this daily content. Only £1 a month. Details in the description box below of how. And soon in the next week or two, I'll be giving added content to my members that I'll be telling you more about. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy your Tuesday and come on, you Spurs.